All right, everyone, welcome back. We're gonna be continuing on through our Warframe by an idiot, because I'm an idiot. Welcome to my TED Talk. Anyway, we're gonna be briefly covering companions. And I'll be honest, when we get to the second part of this companion one, gonna have to talk about some recent changes to one of the companion things. Recent is within the last year, and I just didn't notice because I don't use that style of companion. But anyway, brief overview of companions. You have two categories. You have organic companions and you have robotic companions. Your organic companions can either be things like your standard Kubrows. I think there's 4 different types of Kubrows. Or if you're lucky, unlucky, however you want to view it, you can get a helmet charger. Outside of that, you can get regular Kavats for your organics. Um, they're a little bit. There are I think, three types of Kavats you can get, depending on different circumstances. With robotics ones, we have a lot of um, more readily available ones. They're not as hard to acquire. Um, Taxon, literally the first companion most people get because it's purchasable in the shop. And he's a robotic one. And then you have things like Carrier, Helios, Death Cube, um, Shade, Worm, and Nautilus was added much, much later. He comes from doing Railjack. So, and he's helpful for Railjack. But anyway, back onto the categories. So, those are kind of the two big categories, right? Robotics and organics. There are secondary ways to acquire both robotics and organic pets, similar to the kit gun system and the ZAW system. It's basically build a bear pet, kit bashing pets together. That's going to be in a whole separate video, kind of the same way kit guns and ZAWs will be their own separate videos. Because there's a lot of nuance to that, and I'm trying to cover mostly modding things in this series, while also introducing some, general information. So, modding doesn't really get too crazy for we'll cover robotics first because I main Helios Prime, which is a robotic companion. I like him. He's useful. Um, One of the biggest things about robotics is you'll have a mode called assault mode. I think the MOA ones. I'll check on. I'll cover that in the in the kit one because all of your robotics that you can get outside of the kit bashing ones are going to be sentinel style, as in they float behind you. Um, so assault mode is going to be a mod that you're going to use in just about every one, unless you have a build that is not meant to attack. Um, that could be because you want them to do scanning. This build for Helios is made just to do scans. It was really useful when scanning plants on like Earth or no, I used a different frame for that. Anyways, it's useful if you don't want them attacking things and want them doing their secondary functions because most robotic sentinel style companions have secondary things that they can do. In the case of Helios Prime, it's his investigator, which means he scans objects and enemies to add them to the codex. Really useful if you're trying to expand and build up your simulacrum. So I highly recommend getting Helios when you can get him. I don't remember if he's a market one or if he's a dojo one. Um, but again, the wiki can tell you really quickly how to acquire a regular Helios. Helios Prime, again, just a Prime version, kind of the same way where Primes and frames and regular frames, there's not a gigantic difference in how they work. There's just some, usually it's an extra polarity slot and increased health, shield, and armor. Usually that's kind of it. Should have covered that in my Warframe one, but we're getting it now. Anywho's it. So another couple of really good mods that are on for your robotic style. Regen. I have a primed version here. Here, I'll do the regular regen. Sentinel recovery time reduced by 20 seconds. Revives with 10 seconds of invulnerability. This is kind of a switch that happened. I don't know if it was early last year or in late 2024. It used to be that when companions got damaged too much, they, especially robotic companions, they would just die and be gone. You would lose them for the rest of the mission. And so Prime Regen would let them regenerate a number of times, or Regen would let them regenerate a number of times, so you would have them longer throughout the mission. Now, instead, they just have a recovery time where your companion is down for a period of time and you don't have access to them being active. However, things like vacuum and fetch, I believe, are still active even when they are in recovery, which is super helpful. So that's regen. Super helpful for speeding up the recovery of your companions as they get down to missions, because they will get down. They're very much flimsier than you. With an armor rating of 100, because I don't have buffed armor on this, they're not taking a bunch of hits and surviving it in a high damage situation. But vacuum. This is your companion gather link. Detects and collects items, including mods. One of the most useful things about having a companion in the game is the fact that you get vacuum or fetch. Fetch is for the organic side, vacuum is for your robotic side. It is the reason to have a companion, to be honest. If you don't like, if you see your companion doing extra damage as something that's something you not want, I mean, okay, cool. You do you. There are plenty of people who build their companions to just be there essentially to hold the vacuum mod. You could do that. Nothing against it. I like my companions to actually do stuff because I want them to be a companion and not a hireling. Personal opinion. Everyone has them. Anyway, one of the other really important ones is Animal Instinct. The prime one obviously being better. Both of these two show up in Barricatier's shop from time to time, or during the TennoCon relay, where you can buy Barrow's pass and get all of his stuff. Someone, I'm sure, has made an in-depth Barrow video at some point. I might make one at some point. We don't know. Anyway, Animal Instinct gives you loot radar and enemy radar. This is useful for if you're wanting to know where peeps are and you're not playing Ivara, and getting that enemy radar as her passive. And B, for the loot radar part, this can help you find Ayatan treasures. It can help you find, oh gosh, what are they called? Syndicate medallions. It can help you find sabotage caches. Like, all of those things show up on loot radar. So, super helpful for doing those things. And then the final one for robotic ones is Repair Kit, which just lets your robotic companions have a little bit of health regen. Makes them live longer. And then I honestly like regular health and vitality like you would have on a Warframe, and then whatever else you're wanting to put on there. I run Shield Charger because it's nice because it buffs my shields, my max shields, and my shield regeneration for a little bit. It's useful for just as a quality of life thing. A big quality of life one that comes from running the the index. This is a mod drop from the index is Medi-Ray, and it will occasionally heal its owner, restoring 12% health over 4 seconds. If your Warframe does not already have a way to heal itself or to get health without using pads or things like that, or if you decide to use pads, that's fine. Then Medi-Ray is an excellent option to slot into your companion. Again, you can build your companion however you want. If you notice, this build is called Murderbot. My Helios has more kills than my Saren does. If I haven't mentioned this before, yeah, my Helios legitimately kills more things than my Saren does with abilities. Why? Well, because I've got a Riven, which we'll get to that. Anyway, so that's kind of all of the kind of basic, like super useful mods. A lot of other ones are just kind of the bond mods that can come from um, both Fortuna and from Deimos. Talking to Sun and the business. I think it's the business. Whoever is the one who makes MOAs in Fortuna. Yeah, I think it's them. Might be someone else. You could there's one person in Fortuna, and then Sun in Deimos in the necrolist that you talk to in order to get the bond mods. Half of them come from him, half come from the dude in Fortuna. And they have some interesting things that work out. I like Contagious Bond because I deal with a lot of status effects. So, playing Saren a lot does that. Anyway, moving on to weapons. No, I'll say, yeah, I'll move on to weapons. So weapons, depending on what type of weapon they are, follow different rules. So in Helios's case, and this is the only case as far as I know, Helios's weapon, the Deconstructor, is actually a thrown melee weapon. It throws glaives. So you use kind of your same approach to modding it as you would for a glaive, excepting that his has 0% crit chance to begin with. That and my Riven, it makes, yeah. He had 0 to begin with because otherwise I would have point of something from Riven. And this is where your companion weapon Rivens can come into play, because even though this is built with melee mods, it is still a companion Riven weapon, or a companion weapon. So companion Riven weapon would be what you need to get a Riven for. And that's also one of the reasons why I refer to my Helios as a murder bot, because I've got a Riven in his weapon. And Rivens turn things up to 11. So, and that's kind of it. I'll show you with a different one. Where is it? Oh, it's the Hellstrom. I really like the Hellstrom. This is like a mini rocket launcher for your Sentinels. And honestly, this is one of the ones you can get from Fortuna. They're made to go on the modular MOAs and Hounds. Again, different video. Anyway, but it works just like a rifle, and it uses rifle mods. If I did have a Riven, a companion Riven for the Hellstrom specifically, I could have one in here. But again, it's that companion Riven mod that you would get from Samaris' shop for 100k credit standing. Anyway, but yeah, you just mod it the same way you would a regular rifle. So yeah, that's gonna give him back his actual weapon. So that's kind of the robotic side, modding them, and a little bit about it. Now we're going to use my Hive Velrine, which this is actually one of the modular ones, but it's also the one I've put the most work into. So I didn't play around a lot with organic companions after I found out about Helios, I'll be honest. So I didn't do as much with them. But yeah, so she works great though for showing kind of the basic mods used. And kind of the change that I have to show you is it used to be that if you had an organic companion pet, they didn't have a weapon slot. This was blank. This didn't exist. It was just them. So you used to put damage mods and things in their main build. And so that was one of the ways they differed. And then I guess sometime last year they changed to give them actual melee thing. So it says unranked because I haven't used some of them. So we're going to cover the melee first, and then we'll get into her mods, the mods for an organic campaign. Not a lot of really super big deal of things here. There are not a ton of claw mods. They'll either be listed as straight claws or cavat claws in the case of swipe. So a Volpapaya or a Panza, yeah, Panzer. I think it's still a Volpapaya. Anyway, counts as cavats. They're a cat fox thing. Anyway, Maul is going to be your basic melee damage. You have your 60/60s with Shot Caller, Frostjaw, Flame Gland. And there's a Toxin one. I just don't have it because I probably haven't interacted enough with the content enough to get it. Either that or it's a rare drop from somewhere I don't normally play. Magnetic Claws and Radon Claws come from 1999 and from the Sanctum Anatomica, I believe, or where those come from. And they're nice because they give magnetic and radiation damage, normally a two-parter that you would need, and then they give some crit damage and status duration. So kind of your same setup as building for melee, honestly, in a way. And you're not really stacking for crit chance because there's not a crit mod here. Interesting notes are the Chilling Claws and... Did I only get the Chilling Claws? Okay, so Fortuna, I think it's all Fortuna, had a multitude of mods that you could get from doing the animal captures on Fortuna. That, as they say, it adds cold damage and adds status chance. And then it converts all elemental damage from those claws to cold damage. So if you were just trying to stack elemental damage, essentially, because there is a heat and there is a toxin one, I believe. Have to go double check. You could just stack all of these different, elemental mods on here, and then use something like Chilling Claws to convert it all to cold damage, heat damage, or whatever you want. Interesting to note, though, doing that may become saying that it would convert to... It might convert to viral because I don't have Toxin, but I'm getting Toxin because the Panzer Claws innately carry Toxin. So depending on what creature, what organic you're using, they might do different things. Like if I were to swap really quick to my Plague Father, which again, I haven't done anything with his claws. His claws innately have viral. So I wouldn't have to add anything to get viral. However, I do wonder if using something like Chilling... I mean, let's find out real quick. It does. You would lose the viral. Interesting. So that's a big choice to make using those mods. But anyway, we're going to swap back to Valrin. Okay, so with organics, a couple of things are going to be, good across the wing. Fetch, like we mentioned, it's the organic version of vacuum. It's going to be on just about every build you have, unless you don't care about picking things up. Don't know a Warframe player yet who doesn't care about picking things up. Animal Instinct shows back up. Pack Leader is going to be one of the best ways to keep your organic pets alive, your companions alive, because it is very, very easy in order to make use of this to heal your pet. So they get 100 health per hit of a melee hit against enemies. And then excess healing grants Overguard, which is, again, this is a change from how this used to work. It used to just say heal your companion for X% of the damage dealt, something like that. So the fact that it is now has a designated health per hit, and that you can give them overguard is really helpful for extending that time, because you notice they have a long recovery time, 45 seconds. And um, that's with Medi-Pet Kit, which reduces their companion recovery time by 15 seconds. So I'm already reducing it from 60 down to 45. So keeping them alive as long as possible, or as best as possible, means that they have less downtime. And then that brings me obviously over here to Medi-Pet Kit, which does 12% or 12 companion health regen per second, and then it has companion recovery time removed, which is, it's a trade off. It's about 6 less health per second regen, but it does have the benefit of reducing companion recovery time. Now, from there, all of the organic ones have a bunch of different special abilities that they are given. Kind of like the same way we had, two ability things. Investigator, as you saw in Helios, which lets him scan things. All of the organics usually have two things that they can do. In this case, for the Panzer Papaya, which is what Valorant is, it has Devolution, which devolves into its lower form when downed and attacks enemies with quills, dealing 6% fire damage to each, regains true form after 30 seconds. So I can bypass, as long as they're not damageable in their maggot form. Um, I can bypass this 45 to instead get 30 seconds. Martyr Symbiosis drains and stores health from corpses. This is just a general Volpapaya one. So this could be on Panzer or Sly, or I think there's another one, but I don't remember. Anyway, 5 meters, 40% of your health. If your health falls below 10%, companion downs itself to heal you. And that's where these two things really work well together, with the Volpapaya downing itself, but then being able to regain its true form after 30 seconds. And then for the Panzer, it can launch quills at enemies, so it's got a little bit of a ranged attack. And then it creates spores. So that works well with a frame like Saren that's already throwing spores out at people. And then, again, this is just one of the bonds. So, yeah, that's kind of simple, not so simple. I think it's simple, but you know, I'm also behind on the times. Didn't realize they changed that about things. So, quick rundown again. Helpful mods if you're doing an organic companion. Pack leader, any version. Medi-Pet Kit, Fetch, Animal Instinct. Those 4 mods are pretty good for whatever organic pet you're using. They're kind of toolkitty and help with things. If you are using a robotic companion of any kind, uh, generally going to have assault mode, repair kit's super useful, animal instinct again, any type that you have, regen, any type that you have, and then vacuum. It's going to be on everyone. And from there, it's kind of just choose what you want to do. You know, it's a lot of what this is. But anyways, I hope this was helpful for someone. Thank you guys for watching, and everyone just have a fantastic and wonderful day. Thank you.